As for the next president of UVA, Ryan says with a certain degree of humor, there will be a to-do list.
Probably clean up all the messes I made. I think that the next president will absolutely have to focus on the core of what we do, as I was saying earlier. I mean, that is the most important part of the job. Beyond that, my experience is that you know there's going to be something, but you have no idea what it's going to be.
Ryan is resigning from his position as the president of the University of Virginia. The sudden departure is linked to pressure from the Justice Department about UVA's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts and accusations that Ryan slow-played changes demanded by the Trump administration. Kate Nuechterlein joins us live on grounds with our top story at 5. Kate.
Aaron, we've just received a statement from Ryan confirming his resignation from the University of Virginia. He says he's inclined to fight for what he believes in, but believe that going up against the federal government unilaterally could put faculty at risk of losing their jobs and students at risk of losing their visas and financial aid. Now, what Ryan is calling an excruciatingly difficult decision has already drawn intense reactions from the community.
Having the feds come in and force out a leader is just unprecedented and truly outrageous.
Senator Tim Kaine is not happy about Jim Ryan leaving UVA.
But the notion of we're in midstream on an investigation and hey, we'll drop the whole thing if you resign. I mean, that is just, it's bullying.
And he's not alone. State Senator Cree Deeds, who represents Charlottesville, agrees.
I think it's a tragedy and it's Virginia's loss. There's no question about that.
The New York Times reports that the Justice Department privately demanded that Ryan resign as part of a deal that would include the federal government settling a civil rights investigation into DEI policies on grounds. John Reed is the Republican nominee for lieutenant governor.
I think it's past time for President Ryan to step down, and I hope that everybody who's associated with the University of Virginia will recognize that they need to recommit to solid management practices and stop pushing the DEI.
According to the Times, Ryan told the Board of Visitors that he planned to step down at the end of next academic year, but given the current circumstances, he decided to resign now.
It threatens the independence of the university. It casts a shadow on the integrity of the research and the teaching that we do at the university.
Eric Lindstrom is a history professor at UVA and one of 100 UVA faculty members who signed a letter condemning federal interference on grounds.
And it's just an outrageous violation of academic freedom.
Kaine is now warning universities across the state and the nation, saying if it could happen here, it could happen anywhere.
You have to be a president that, you know, is loyal to the president of the United States or your job's in danger.
Teresa Sullivan and I spoke this afternoon about Jim Ryan being pushed out of his role at UVA. At issue, politics, presidents, and a new kind of pressure.
This will be a watershed moment in the history of the university.
Teresa Sullivan knows a thing or two about leading the University of Virginia. She did it as president from 2010 to 2018. When she heard about Jim Ryan resigning his post under pressure from the federal government, she did not at first believe it.
And I thought somebody got the news wrong and told me the wrong thing.
In 2012, Sullivan was ousted from the presidency at UVA at the hands of the then Board of Visitors, but after an outpouring of support from the community, was reinstated and served for another 6 years. Last week, 13 years later, the lawn was packed once again with protesters, many hoping for a repeat of Sullivan's comeback.
I'm sure that it means a lot to President Ryan that people are willing to, stand up for him and say they believed in him and, urge that there be a different course of action. Whether there will be a different course of action, I can't possibly predict.
Sullivan says any president must put the university first, but she is disappointed to see things end this way.
If he had said, look, I'm tired, I need a rest, I'm going, I would understand that because it's a real difficult job. Having it like this, the cloud of mystery, the implication that it was wrongdoing according to the Justice Department and so on. No, that's not how I would have wanted any president to end their term.
Her concern now is continuing to attract strong faculty members and preserving UVA's reputation.
We will continue to get excellent students. I'm not really worried about that. The uncertainty about who's really in charge here, is it the board? Is it the federal government? That's going to continue. And that's a difficult thing to deal with.
Soon after Ryan announced his resignation, saying he did not want to risk losing the university millions of funds and numerous jobs, Sullivan sent him an email. In her words, stand tall.
I thought it was a message he needed to hear, that it was a principled decision, that he wasn't just taking the line of least resistance. There's the risk that people will think, well, that was just the expedient thing to do. I don't think it was in his case. I think he thought long and hard about what he should do.
UVA faculty members are calling for more transparency and shared governance in the wake of President Jim Ryan's sudden resignation under pressure from the federal government.
These professors are now demanding answers from the UVA Board of Visitors. Kate Nuechterlein is live in the studio with the very latest in our top story at 5.
The UVA Faculty Senate has given the Board of Visitors a deadline of July 14th to meet with them. They want to know the exact circumstances that led to Ryan's decision and make sure that faculty voices are included when it comes to picking his successor.
Shared governance cannot exist in the dark.
Jerry Seidman is the chair of UVA's Faculty Senate. She says she did not see Ryan's resignation coming, and neither did Michael Kennedy, the faculty representative to the Board of Visitors.
The fact that he was also shocked, made me both so disappointed that President Ryan was resigning and also incredibly disappointed in the process that shared governance obviously wasn't working because our board representative was not included in conversations.
Wednesday morning, the board abruptly canceled a scheduled special meeting. A spokesperson for UVA told 29 News that, quote, the personnel matter was resolved, so the meeting was no longer necessary.
We don't understand much of what the board is doing because they're not actively communicating with us.
Ian Mullins is an associate professor at UVA and a member of the UVA chapter of United Campus Workers of Virginia. The group helped organize a faculty town hall Wednesday called Hands Off UVA.
We want to try and figure out where people are, what they want, and how we can accomplish our goals together. This university is so important to this state, and we're here to defend it.
Both Mullins and Seidman say faculty must play a role in choosing the interim and permanent president.
So faculty come here because they want to be here, because they believe in the mission, because they love this place. I really worry that this is going to, cause an exodus, that many of them are going to start looking elsewhere for jobs.
That's why the Faculty Senate has called on the board to meet with them next week to answer questions and rebuild trust that Seidman says has been broken.
We need to let faculty know that no, the mission hasn't changed. This was a speed bump and we're going to right the ship.
Just a couple of hours ago, Seidman told me that she has heard they are expecting both the current rector and vice rector to attend their meeting next Friday.
It navigates an unfamiliar chapter, one without former President Jim Ryan. A new leader has emerged.
JJ Wagner-Davis, now the acting president, sat down with Kate Nuechterlein today to discuss priorities, challenges, and what lies ahead.
With Jim Ryan stepping down under federal pressure and top UVA health officials leaving Charlottesville, it's been a tumultuous month for leadership here on grounds. But the woman now in charge says she's confident they will make it through.
We've been through challenging things before, think about COVID or even the shooting a couple of years ago. And so this time too, together we'll get through it.
As the executive vice president and chief operating officer at UVA, JJ Wagner-Davis says she never expected to add acting president to her title.
It never crossed my mind. So this was as a pretty big shock and surprise.
The unexpected leadership change comes after Jim Ryan resigned from the presidency amid a federal investigation into diversity, equity, and inclusion on grounds.
It's a challenging time to lead, and I respect his decision. Of course, I'm sad that he chose that path, but I think for the betterment of the institution, we're just all working hard to make sure UVA remains excellent.
For many in Charlottesville, keeping UVA excellent means warding off federal overreach. Davis says UVA is trying to resolve some of the investigations into the role Washington played in Ryan's resignation.
And I'd like to work collaboratively and expeditiously to try to resolve this matter for the betterment of UVA. The federal government obviously is an important constituency for ours, and so striking the right balance. And the other thing I would say is obviously we want to be in compliance with all federal laws, but beyond that, I'd really rather not comment at this point.
UVA is now searching for an interim president and announced last Friday a 28-person search committee that will help find a permanent replacement. The final decision, though, is in the hands of the Board of Visitors. Just a couple weeks ago, UVA's Faculty Senate adopted a vote of no confidence in the board.
Are you confident that the board can carry out this search in the right way?
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic with respect to the national search. I mean, only time will tell, but I think the comprehensive nature of the committee the fact that they've, touched all constituencies. But it's again, presidents' jobs are really, really hard. Thinking about the next leader, the 10th president of UVA, that's not going to be an easy or small task.
Davis says she wouldn't rule out becoming the interim herself.
The board ultimately makes a suggestion that perhaps I should be the interim. I would consider it very seriously, but I'm deeply respectful that simply what I want to do is provide continuity, stability, energy, enthusiasm during this period of change.
Davis says she expects the interim will likely serve for the next academic year. UVA still does not have a date for when it will announce who that interim will be.
Virginia today naming an interim president who will serve until a permanent replacement is found.
UVA's Board of Visitors selected Paul Mahoney, a law school dean, at a special meeting today. Kate Nuechterlein joins us live in the newsroom with our top story at 6.
The Board of Visitors met for about 3 hours this morning, with much of that time closed to the public. There are still some unknowns, but one big question has been answered.
I move the Board of Visitors elect Professor Paul G. Mahoney, interim president of the University of Virginia.
With that, Paul Mahoney, a UVA law professor and former law school dean, will be the next person to head the university. Mahoney has been with the law school for more than 30 years and will replace acting president J.J. Wagner Davis. Rachel Sheridan is board rector.
UVA has faced chapters of immense change before. It has always emerged stronger because good people have chosen to rise to the challenge with integrity, civility, and purpose. And that is what we are called to do now.
In a written statement, Mahoney thanked the board for their trust and for making a decision in a manner consistent with the university's core values of shared governance, academic freedom, and student self-governance. Clay Dickerson is UVA's student council president.
I'm happy with the timing. As far as Mahoney himself, it's okay. I mean, it's fine. I think that who he is matters less than what he does.
The decision comes after UVA hosted listening sessions with the community and published an online nomination form. At the meeting, UVA revealed that 5 people were nominated 30 or more times, but did not say who.
I'd like to see who those were and see where Mahoney ranked in the total nominations.
This is the first time the board has met since UVA's Faculty Senate gave them a vote of no confidence. Faculty Senate Chair Jerry Simon welcomed Mahoney, writing to 29 News that his years of service as Dean of UVA Law have demonstrated his capability and dedication to advancing the university's mission. Ian Mullins is a UVA professor and is with United Campus Workers of Virginia. He says his biggest problem with the interim announcement is a lack of information.
In general, faculty that I've spoken to are still upset about the process. They feel like there's a need for much greater transparency from the perspective of the board and how this decision was made.
Mahoney's term officially begins next Monday on August 11th. The board today stated that it will begin the search for a permanent president in late August or early September, and it will take about 4 to 6 months.
With students now back in Charlottesville, the University of Virginia has begun the search for its 10th president through a 28-person nomination committee. Kate Nuechterlein's in studio to show us that the process is already being met with criticism from some on grounds.
Steve, with Mahoney serving as interim president, UVA is now seeking a permanent replacement, but some are still demanding more transparency about why Jim Ryan resigned and a bigger say in who will replace him.
It's difficult for us just to dismiss the seriousness of this moment when our initial concerns haven't been addressed and we're just expected to move past them.
Students, faculty, and staff are back on grounds as the university's 28-person search committee begins its mission to find a new president. They're beginning with parts of the UVA community already concerned. Ian Mullins is a member of the United Campus Workers of Virginia.
It's becoming increasingly clear that the faculty have a very different idea of shared governance than the Board of Visitors.
Already, faculty and student groups have issued no confidence votes in the board. Pushback, even as UVA has pledged to host forums and listening sessions and to take feedback from online surveys.
It's crucially important that we get feedback and input from every corner of the university community so that we have a good idea of the qualifications that the community wants to see in our next president.
Walt Heineke is with the UVA chapter of the American Association of University Professors.
Taking input from the faculty attending to faculty voice is not the same thing as including faculty in the decision-making process.
Both Heineke and Mullins are now calling for UVA to redo the committee and include more faculty, staff, and students.
What's at stake here is the ability to select a president that's committed to faculty shared governance and won't allow any external political forces guide the academic mission of the University of Virginia.
Now, the Board of Visitors has the final say in who will be the next president. UVA tells me that they are still expecting the process to take about 4 to 6 months.
Today, protesters gathered outside of the meeting of the UVA Board of Visitors. Students, faculty, and staff demanded more transparency and more of a say in who will become the university's next president. Kate Nuechterlein joined us live in the newsroom with the details in our top story at 6.
Aaron, this week marks the first time the board is meeting since a Senate committee blocked more of Governor Glenn Youngkin's appointments to the board. Today, the battle over higher education was clear as protesters lined up and called on the board to either respond or resign.
Students aren't oblivious. We are painfully aware of everything going on.
One by one, students, faculty, and community members made their presence known as they lined up outside the rotunda for the board meeting. But due to limited capacity, only a few made it inside. Clay Dickerson is UVA's Student Council president.
It makes me anxious, and I'm not the only person. It's the idea that we have all these battles going on, and I can't even sit in there and hear about it.
For the first time, Paul Mahoney had his own seat at the table as interim president.
That while political winds may shift around us, the university's core values, mission, and activities remain unchanged. This is a sturdy ship that can handle rough weather.
Mahoney says free speech is one of his biggest priorities and referenced the recent killing of conservative political advocate Charlie Kirk as a reason why.
It is never acceptable to silence a speaker because of his or her views.
It was free speech protesters outside were calling for as security attempted to remove one student who was speaking on the steps. Chris Wright is a fourth year at UVA.
Very much like for students to actually be involved in the running of our school.
Protesters are now calling on the board to stop its search for the next president, to start over and include more student and faculty voices.
By calling to cancel the search, we are calling for a change in the search.
But Friday, Rector Rachel Sheridan stood by UVA's presidential committee, saying it represents a wide array of voices.
It's the most representative group in this university's history to select its leader.
Mahoney also announced that the Department of Justice has closed 2 investigations into UVA, one into the Batten and McIntyre schools and one into UVA's response to allegations of anti-Semitic discrimination on grounds.
University of Virginia tonight is grappling with a proposal from the White House. The offer, sent to 9 schools, including UVA, would provide easier access to federal grants if the universities adopt Trump administration priorities.
Kate Nuechterlein joins us live in studio with more. Kate.
Aaron and Steve, the compact offers that federal funding privilege if UVA signs on to the White House's directives around admissions, international enrollment, tuition, and free speech.
Yeah, it sounds like a bribe to me.
On ground, students, faculty, staff, and leadership are making their opinions clear about the federal compact. So far, no decisions have been made, and a working group is considering it. Interim President Paul Mahoney spoke at a faculty senate meeting Friday afternoon. In his words, he said, "I think it was a good thing, not a bad thing, that we received the letter. It doesn't put us in any worse of position than any other school. So, of course, we wanted to receive the letter. That doesn't mean we have to agree to it." The memo from Washington directs schools to stop considering factors like race, sex, political affiliation, and sexual orientation in admissions. It also caps international enrollment and tuition for U.S. students for 5 years. Joel Gardner, president of the Jefferson Council, says UVA should adopt these priorities, letter or no letter.
They should willfully say we are going to seek diversity of thought on the grounds that we are going to depoliticize the university, that we are not going to push any agenda officially.
But Student Council President Clay Dickerson says the compact is an overreach.
They are trying to pay their way into our structure of shared governance. And the federal government has never been a part of that, and I don't think they should be.
The compact would hold UVA to institutional neutrality by promoting a broad spectrum of viewpoints and banning anything that, quote, purposely punishes, belittles, and even sparks violence against conservative ideas.
Viewpoint diversity does exist at the University of Virginia. You just got to come here to see it, and you can't see it from Washington.
Professors, too, are pushing back with the Faculty Senate voting Friday afternoon to pass a resolution to oppose the compact. Walter Heineke is with the American Association of University Professors.
We just can't stand to have bureaucrats who know nothing about higher education running our university.
The Department of Education says it's aiming to have a signed agreement by November 21st.
In our newscast tonight, Jim Ryan is speaking out about his resignation as president at the University of Virginia under pressure from the federal government. Today's account details his version of events. Kate Nuechterlein has been following this story closely and brings us the latest.
Stunned and angry is how UVA's former president felt about the way members of the Board of Visitors treated his battle against the federal government. In a 12-page letter to the UVA Faculty Senate, Jim Ryan is going public with the details of his resignation, from votes on DEI to confidential meetings with the Justice Department and the choice he would eventually make to leave his presidency at UVA. Calling the episode surreal and bewildering, one that felt like a, quote, hostage situation, Ryan says then board member and now rector Rachel Sheridan played a role in the pressure campaign. He says Sheridan was part of key negotiations with the Justice Department that led to what he calls his forced resignation, and says she hired a lawyer to persuade him to resign. But Sheridan's version of events is very different. In a letter to the Faculty Senate Thursday, Sheridan says she never negotiated with the DOJ, that she was not supportive of efforts to remove Ryan, and that pressure on him to resign was from the Trump administration alone. Sheridan's letter comes after months of faculty demanding answers.
I had essentially given up hope, so I was surprised. And then my next thought was, too little, too late.
Jerry Seidman is chair of UVA's Faculty Senate. Friday afternoon, the group voted to call for the rector and vice rector to resign immediately, citing a lack of transparency and accountability.
Even if everything that the rector said is exactly true, would I still think that she was behaving in a courageous way I would expect of board leadership? And the answer to that is no. The Faculty Senate doesn't see any path forward to rebuild trust.
Joel Gardner is president of the Jefferson Council.
There's a lot of speculation in Jim's letter.
Gardner says at the crux of the issue is simply Ryan's failure to dissolve DEI on grounds.
There is a massive amount of evidence that this was being slow-walked. It was, in essence, a charade.
Ryan ended his letter with several questions of his own in a strong statement condemning the Board of Visitors for not doing more to protect him, saying in his words, "I was accused more than once of being stubborn, but stubborn and principled often look the same, especially to those who are unprincipled."
Tonight, the man who now leads the University of Virginia spoke with 29 News about his path to the presidency. Kate Nuechterlein sat down with interim President Paul Mahoney to talk about priorities and challenges during a tumultuous time on grounds.
Mahoney began his term in the wake of former President Jim Ryan's resignation under pressure from the federal government. Now the interim president says his main focus is creating stability at a time when many faculty, staff, and students have voiced concerns and frustration about the future of UVA.
Our students, faculty, staff, and alumni all love this university. Of course they have disagreements about what the university should do or shouldn't do at any given point in time. But I'm confident that they all want the same thing, which is a thriving University of Virginia.
In the midst of an uncertain and unprecedented year on grounds, interim President Paul Mahoney says he wants to steady the ship.
The challenges that we face are mostly external, and I think we also have to make sure that they don't distract us.
The former UVA law dean has a few other key priorities.
I am eager to advance and highlight freedom of speech and viewpoint diversity. I think that we should do everything we can to ensure that UVA stays affordable.
Under Mahoney, UVA is the first public university to strike a deal with the Trump administration's Justice Department, which suspended investigations into civil rights compliance on grounds. The agreement came just days after the university rejected a proposed compact from the Department of Education.
Some of the language of the proposed compact seemed like it encroached on academic freedom. And the agreement that we reached with the United States is quite clear that UVA fully retains its academic freedom. I believe that what we've agreed to do is to comply with federal civil rights laws. Now, I think many people use dismantling DEI as a shorthand for that. I wouldn't use that particular shorthand.
Another top-of-mind issue is who will be Ryan's permanent replacement and when that decision will be made. Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger has called for UVA to pause its search, pointing to votes of no confidence in the Board of Visitors. The UVA Faculty Senate has taken a step further, calling for the immediate resignation of Rector Rachel Sheridan and Vice Rector Porter Wilkinson.
That's up to the rector and vice rector.
Mahoney says he believes initial interviews began this week, but says it's up to the board to decide whether to halt the search. The question now is whether Mahoney is in the running.
Do you want to be the next permanent president of the University of Virginia?
Presidential searches are conducted confidentially. I think it would be unfair to the search committee and to the other candidates for me to say anything publicly about my interest or non-interest in the position.
The UVA Board of Visitors met today amid mounting pressure from on-ground groups and Richmond to change course and pause its search for a permanent president. It did not announce a new president, but did respond to the tension that has been building since former President Jim Ryan's resignation in June. Kate Nuechterlein has the details.
In front of protesters holding signs urging for her to pause the presidential search and resign, Rector Rachel Sheridan defended the UVA board and its decision to continue searching for a 10th president.
Following our agreement with the federal government, we have seen dramatic rise in divisive politics, which continue to get in the way of UVA's mission, which are really sadly aimed to paralyze everyone's efforts to do what's right for UVA.
Friday marked the first time the board has convened since Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger requested it halt the presidential search, citing votes of no confidence in the board and a lack of members. Sheridan did not address that letter specifically Friday, but confirmed that the board would be receiving an update on presidential candidates during closed session.
People here have not been chosen to lead because of an ideological position they have taken, but it will be increasingly difficult to ask people to do so if they're signing up to be maligned, ridiculed, and reduced to political fodder for others' agendas.
The board then went into closed session for about 3 hours, despite being scheduled for 1. It passed a number of resolutions not related to the presidential search and passed a motion for faculty personnel actions.
If faculty and personnel actions discussed in closed session, can I have a motion? So moved. Is there a second?
Jerry Seidman is chair of the Faculty Senate, which voted a few weeks ago to call for the rector and vice rector's resignation.
The Faculty Senate and the faculty more broadly have been clear that they don't trust this board, they don't trust this rector and this vice rector to lead this board, and I don't think that's going to change.
Seidman says she still has hope for the process of selecting the next president, but this meeting left more questions than answers.
I think there are many great things about UVA right now, but there is a lot of distrust, and a university or any institution can only be in crisis for so long before the good things start to crack.
UVA's new president won't have to move far into his new office. The Board of Visitors this afternoon introducing Darden Business School Dean Scott Beardsley as the university's 10th president. Avery Davis joining us live from outside Old Ivy Hall, where that announcement was made. Good evening, Avery.
Today ends the search that garnered the attention of elected officials from Charlottesville to Washington, sparked controversy, sparked criticism from Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, and defense from Governor Glenn Youngkin. Through the controversy, Scott Beardsley says he's ready to lead and unite the university.
I want you to know that I stand before you because I love this university.
UVA's Board of Visitors unanimously voted on Friday afternoon to promote Scott Beardsley from Dean of the Darden School of Business to President of the university. Beardsley takes office January 1st and will serve 5.5 years. His selection follows a contentious semester-long search to replace his predecessor, Jim Ryan, who resigned in June.
And I want to just say that I believe the best way forward is together. This is a moment to move beyond division, to renew trust, and to focus on what unites us.
Rector Rachel Sheridan told the crowd that gathered at Old Ivy Hall for the announcement Beardsley was a top candidate from the beginning of the search.
I felt that the best thing to do was to serve the university I'm already working at for the last 11 years, to try and move forward. I felt that my skills matched what the university needs, and I look forward to serving to the best of my abilities all parts of UVA.
Beardsley was asked why he accepted the job amidst calls from some faculty and Democrats, including Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, to stop the search in its entirety. The Board of Visitors, who has the final say, currently consists of Youngkin appointees.
Well, I didn't control that I was nominated or selected in the process.
Beardsley says he wants to take politics out of the position. Ahead of the announcement, Democrat delegate Katrina Carlson told 29 News the selection process was flawed to its core.
This doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to ignore what everyone is asking for and to soldier ahead when you know that all of it might be overturned in just a few weeks.
Lieutenant Governor-elect Ghazala Hashmi has already responded to the appointment, saying it should be paused until she and Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger take office in January. For now, live on grounds, Avery Davis, 29 News at 6.